how I feel about certain design choices with little to no explanation.
Just joking, let me explain. Hello, my name is Bridie and I'm a nutritionist from Melbourne. Welcome to my channel. I did this reel that I posted up on my Instagram. You can see it at Nourished by Bridie on Instagram, where I responded to certain nutrition choices and diets and lifestyles with little to no explanation. But well, I am a nutritionist after all, so it would make sense for me to give you an explanation. Before we get started, just a quick note that if you have been recommended to follow a certain diet by your healthcare professional, please do not make any changes to that before discussing it with them. And remember that this is general advice and general information, so all of the information in this video might not be right for you and your individual circumstances and your individual health and well-being goals as well. So don't forget, speak with your own healthcare professional before making any changes to your diet. First up, we have Pescatarian, which I said yes to. I absolutely think this is a great choice if you would prefer to be eating less meat, whether that's due to ethical reasons or personal choice, but you are willing to include fish and seafood because immediately it's a good source of protein for you, as well as fish are really nutritious, high in the good fats as well. So a great option, love this, absolutely okay with it from a nutritional perspective. In fact, I encourage it. Second, we had Flexitarian, and again, this is a yes from me. Flexitarian is an approach to being more plant-based. It's almost like a cross between vegetarian and being an omnivore in that you do have some meat, but your focus is on plant-based foods. I'm a big fan of this because obviously you're going to get all of your nutrients from your fruits and vegetables, but you are including some animal-based product as well. So you're going to get your iron, your protein, your vitamin A, your B12, no problem. And it's a really balanced approach as well. Big fan. Then we have an absolutely not, which is low fat. Not a fan of this for a variety of reasons. The first one being that we actually need fat in our diets every single day to be able to ensure that we remain healthy and strong. It is very essential for so many of our body's processes, so it is unnecessary to have a low fat diet. The second reason that I'm not a big fan of the low-fat diet is that as soon as we start demonizing any particular food or food group, it can really impact our relationship with food, and we don't want to be creating a lifestyle of restriction, but more looking at how we can incorporate all foods in a healthy way. Now, the next one I said I was 50-50 on, and that is intermittent fasting. I'm a bit torn on this one. There is the science and the evidence for it. So the fasting element, it was made famous by Dr. Michael Mosley with his 5-2 diet. So yes, there is some evidence for it. However, there are other aspects to it, such as the stress that places on your body to be in a fasting state, and we don't fully understand the impact of that yet. And also, once again, it can create a bit of a complicated relationship with food because once again, it's relying on restriction and deprivation to supposedly help you achieve your health goals, whereas in reality, it's not always necessary to exercise such restriction and deprivation to be able to achieve your health goals. I think there are better ways to do it. 100% no to Whole30. Once again, this is because it's all about restriction. But the other thing that I think is really unhealthy about the Whole30 perspective is that when you're doing your Whole30 challenge, if you even so much as have a single thing, mouthful, that's not on the Whole30 plan, you have to start the Whole30 challenge over again, which I just think is the complete wrong way to approach health and well-being. It doesn't allow for making mistakes. It doesn't allow for having a bad day. It doesn't allow for making just a choice for yourself that you might want to eat some chocolate on that day. So it's almost like saying you are not an adult able to make your own food choices. We're going to make them for you. And if you mess up, you have to start again. It's kind of the same reason why I'm not the biggest fan of the 75 hard challenge. This one I said yes, and I don't care that it's impractical, and that is counting macros. Counting macros, if done with your healthcare professional, can be a fantastic way for you to achieve your health and well-being goals. why not? Make sure you do it with a health professional, because Google isn't going to necessarily give you the best advice for you when it comes to what your macro requirements are. But yeah, absolutely, it can work for you. The next one, I said I hate these, and it's going to be meal replacement shakes. Not a fan. It is actually rare to find ones that are nutritionally balanced, even if they say that they are on the packet. So I just don't trust them in general. Again, it comes back to restriction and telling you that you don't know how to make food choices. So I just don't agree with the concept and don't agree with them necessarily nutritionally. There are some situations where they can be helpful for people that maybe need to lose a large amount of weight and have difficulty doing so and might need to really control their caloric intake, but in general, not a fan. These ones, I say that I hate these even more, and the reason is because they're just terrible but good but terrible marketing. They are marketed really well, but at the same time in a really harmful way by saying that you need these. You don't need these. If you have been prescribed some type of herbal tea for your own health and well-being, great, but if you are a herbalist or have had a herbal prescription before, you would know that a herbal tea is one of the least effective of all of the herbal remedies. Nothing wrong with it, but don't buy into the marketing of detox and skinny teas, please. And this one here, I said yes, of course, to the Mediterranean diet. This actually plays a little bit back into what I was talking about, the Pescatarian diet before, but it also is one of those diets that is adopted by cultures across the world that have really high rates of well-being and longevity as well. So we know that they work and can actually be adopted in your day-to-day life quite easily. They can become a lifestyle. Mediterranean diet focuses on lots of really good plant-based foods, moderate amounts of red meat and wine, and plenty of seafood and legumes as well. It's balanced. I think it's a really good approach. I think it's easy to do. I'm a big fan. Here I say no to these ones, again, because it comes back to restriction and cutting out an entire food group. And this is not a nutritionally sound approach to your health and well-being. There are some cases where this is required, and if your health professional has suggested these to you, then absolutely go for it. But in general, it's not necessary to cut carbs, even though it just seems to be the message that's coming from everywhere. So it's a no to these ones. From a scientific evidence-based perspective, if you are going to do these types of diets, they can have benefits, but it's important to do them in a cyclical fashion. So what I mean is, instead of just saying, right, that's it, I'm going to be keto for the rest of my life, you do it for a few weeks and then you reintroduce some carbs, whether that's some sweet potato or carrots or some fruit, or whether that's grain-based carbs. And then if you want to go back into keto later, you do, but it's really important that you do it for a few weeks on or a few weeks off. The maximum amount of time that you should be keto or low carb or super low carb should be maximum 12 weeks. And even that has been shown to have some disadvantages to health as well. So again, just make sure you're doing this with your healthcare professional so they can give you the right advice. This is not something to be Googling, I can tell you now, because it can have a really big impact on your kidneys and your liver and your digestive system. It does have some applications, but in general, I say no to this one. This one, I said yes. I've actually grown quite fond of this one, and it's being a vegetarian. I'm not a vegetarian. I was raised on a sheep farm, so I always like to joke about what percentage of me is made up of lamb. I'm an absolute omnivore, and I've always found it hard nutritionally to be able to justify being a vegetarian. Because you do have to work a little bit harder at some things. However, what I will say is that vegetarian is this beautiful balance between being able to respect perhaps your ethical convictions while still having more nutritional value than being a vegan. So yes, this one has absolutely grown on me, and from a nutritional perspective, there is a lot of evidence to support this one as well. And I don't believe that there is as much danger to the restriction side of this one as well, because most of the time people are vegetarian, or a lot of the time are vegetarian for ethical reasons, and I really want to support people's choices, particularly when it comes to the food they eat, when it's for ethical reasons. I think that's really important. Last but not least, surprisingly, I said yes to the CSIRO Total Wellbeing Diet. No, this is not sponsored or anything like that. And to be honest, the nutritional principles of it are a little bit out of date. However, what I will say about this is that it's accessible, it's well researched, it's available on the internet, so you can look up the recipes there. It's a really good way of grouping together the principles of nutrition for people to understand. It promotes high protein, low GI foods as well. It actually works for a lot of people because it's not restrictive and it has lots of really good meal ideas as well. I just think it has made a diet really accessible for people. There's so many medical conditions and reasons why you might need to lose weight. And for people like that, they may not have a lot of options available to them. Maybe you can't afford a nutritionist or a dietitian to give you an individualized plan. Well, this well-being diet is a way for people to access weight loss in a really easy to understand way. And I think that that's very important to help them lose that weight without needing to go down the medical or surgical route as well. So surprisingly, I do include this on my yes list. My biggest issue with most of these diets is how they're actually not about health and well-being, and food is a great way to support us towards reaching our health and well-being goals, but that's not what these diets teach us. They teach us about restriction and deprivation and how to cope with being hungry, but is that really going to help us achieve a life of good quality health and longevity? So what I am hoping that this channel becomes is a place where you can come to find really good nutrition information that will help you achieve your health and well-being goals without getting caught up in restriction or dieting or unnecessary focuses on certain food groups, which some people just seem to be obsessed with cutting out. I don't understand it. So I hope this has answered any questions you might have had about why I feel the way that I do about certain nutrition choices, this time with plenty of explanation. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments below, or you can always jump over to Instagram to find me there. If this has been helpful for you, don't forget to like, share it with your friends and family, and hit the subscribe button as well so you can see next time that I share a video. But for now, that's all from me.